Have you ever been in a crowded room having a conversation with your friends when all of a sudden you hear someone say your name from the other side of the room? How were you able to suddenly focus in on a conversation that you were initially ignoring? Typically, a person will instantly focus their attention on the conversation they heard their name in because we are interested in what other people think about us. This is the phenomena called the cocktail party effect. In 1953, a researcher named Colin Cherry initially started out wanting to build a machine that could selectively filter out any unwanted sounds so that he could understand a particular signal or speech in a noisy environment. Humans are able to filter information without much effort despite this being a complicated process. This idea is also called selective attention that allows us to focus on one particular bit of information despite being bombarded by several incoming sounds at one time. For example, you have no problem focusing on my voice and ignoring the conversations in the background. Cherry developed an experiment called the dichotic listening task in order to understand how we are able to accomplish this seemingly effortless task. A participant is fitted with headphones and is presented with two different messages at the same time. The task is to listen into one of the messages in one ear and to ignore the other message being presented to the opposite ear. This is also known as a shadowing task. Overall, people are very good at distinguishing one message over the other. However, Cherry discovered that if the message in each ear is spoken by the same voice, participants found it harder to distinguish between both messages, and their performance was worse than if the messages were delivered by two different voices. Participants were able to separate sounds based on the gender of the speaker, the pitch, or the speaking speed. In order to understand how we process incoming information and how we are able to ignore certain conversations over others, we must first understand how information reaches the ear. The bottleneck theory of attention suggests that there is more information being presented to us and some of it can get through to our ears and some information cannot. A frequently used analogy of this is the letter Y, that symbolizes two different sources of information with the arms of the Y, and the lower part of the Y showing our ability to filter between the two sources, which ends in one final source being recognized. Broadbent also utilized the dichotic listening task to illustrate his model. The participant again placed on a set of headphones and was then asked to listen to only one ear and report the information. The information being spoken into both ears was different, and participants were unable to repeat the information being presented to the ear they were not concentrating on. Through this experiment, Broadbent discovered that the brain separates incoming sound into channels based on physical characteristics, such as pitch. Learning the background of different theories is all well and good, but the best way to understand how an effect truly occurs is to see it in action. Here we have two groups of people at a bar enjoying their conversation. Kelly and Aga are going to be the people to help demonstrate this effect. Aga was clearly able to focus in on the conversation that was taking place at the other table, even though she was ignoring it in the beginning. She heard her name being said and immediately shifted her attention from the conversation she was having at her table and focused on why her name was being said in a completely different conversation. This effect can be achieved when we are paying attention to the sounds around us or when something grabs our attention and makes us pay attention. As suggested by Broadbent and Cherry's experiments, unintended messages are rejected by the filter and will therefore receive very little processing. Though not all information that is heard is processed as shown by the Y model, some sounds or conversations are still able to get through. Other psychologists argue that this means the content of the messages was analyzed prior to the filtering suggested by Broadbent. However, the filtering is supposed to occur before the analysis of the information.